Okay, it's 12:01. I'm going to open the public hearing for the MRI room. Do we have anyone that has filed any comments or objections, kind of? No? Anybody here to speak to that? Okay, I'll declare the public hearing closed, and I'll call the meeting to order for the Board of Trustees, July 28th, 2026. We will have a quorum in a bit. Jim Zimmerman is going to join us by phone, and so when we have action items, we will include him in our deliberations. The first thing is the consent agenda. Has everyone had an opportunity to take a look at the consent agenda? We may have to do that again next meeting. Any questions or comments related to that consent agenda? No? Okay. We'll move on. Dr. Devine?
Hello.
Good morning. Afternoon.
Yes.
It's afternoon. I just said it's 12.
All right, so that staff meeting was July 14th. Jenny opened it with a beautiful song that we had several awards from the American Heart Association for cardiovascular patients in the ER. It's always positive to get good reinforcement like that. There were some new legislative actions that Anne brought to us. One was that ivermectin may be available over the counter, and the term physician assistant will change to physician associate. We then brought the BMI revisions to the full medical staff. That's for surgical patients. As you can imagine, a very high BMI puts surgical risk a lot higher. And so then the guidelines are, initially if it's in a certain range, it's to meet with anesthesia and make sure that it's safe. And if it's beyond that, it may have to go to a center that is skilled with higher risk. Perioperative drug screening policy, Jill Paulson brought that. Pretty much anyone who has any history will be screened. It doesn't mean you don't necessarily might not have your surgery, they just want to know what we're dealing with before we give extra medications. And that's for patient safety. They had, looks like next one for me is that our anticipated start date with Dr. Medeiros was last Friday.
It's this Friday. So
This Friday, okay.
Yeah, so it'll be this Friday.
All right. He would cover it the second and fourth Fridays, and Dr. Sherrard will still see patients on the first and third Tuesdays, so we'll still have ENT every week. Next discussion was on red blood cells to have on hand for graft right. We did it right.
Mm-hmm.
We had plenty on hand. Nicole Toplif's last day was July 5th. Jennifer Brooke also will not be continuing the weekend quick care options. Although we're advertising right now, we're just trying to cover each other. And then we discussed Greg, which again, that worked out well. The Health and Human Services grant, there was an application for one for an MRI technician, and we did get notification that we will receive funding for that grant. Next up is that Elmcrest, this is a wonderful thing, I think. We're partnering with Elmcrest to provide meals for both obs and acute patients that go home. What they will be is these frozen meals that are fairly nutritionally sound for up to 4 days, one meal a day, and it'll be free to our customers. We're in the pursuit of a dermatologist, share with Cass Health. And then marketing will be moving to the old business office area on the second floor of the hospital. Maintenance then will finish the second floor of the existing refresh, and then hopefully after we get marketing down, we'll be able to add some OE.
Great. Any questions for Dr. Devine? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Laura?
Okay, the last system-wide QI meeting was held on July 15th. We had 15 departments reporting. A few highlights from that are the mental health is evaluating their intake assessments and baseline no-show rates. They have a no-show rate of 24%, but they're working really hard to get that reduced. Cardiac rehab evaluated internal and external plan of care signatures, which was at 100%. Diabetic education evaluates hemoglobin A1C levels of patients pre and post education, and they reported a 3% reduction of that A1C level. So it went from 9.4% to 6.7%. Dietary reported 92% of consults are done within 24 hours. Home health is looking at their survey results and reported 93% top box rating for home health and 95% for hospice. And ED reported that 100% of stroke patients have appropriate stroke protocols and a CAT scan done and interpreted within 45 minutes. So there's some highlights from that meeting.
Any questions for Laura? Okay, excellent. Thank you. Nicole?
All right, so it's that time of year to review our American Red Cross contract. So last year, July 1st, 25, we entered into another 3-year agreement with them. So just letting you all know that as of July 1 of this year, all of the products that we received from them had a 3% increase as per the contract that we signed last year. So they really came through for us for RAGBRAI. We wanted to have some additional units of O negative blood on hand, and typically we only have 2 units, and they gave us 6 units to have while they came through, and they let us have 8 units of O positive. So definitely didn't need it, so that was a good thing, but we had it just in case we would have needed it. Talked a little bit about RAGBRAI prior to the meeting starting, but it really went well. I feel like we staffed appropriately. Kim and Tina Holdsworth with Community Health and Kathy Buman with Emergency Preparedness kind of worked together to put the tents, first aid tents at both the library and at the high school. And they did see a fair number. I would say like the highest patient census was probably from like the 3 p.m. to about 10 p.m. time frame. So I think that, and then just the group effort with EMS and RAGBRAI having their own service allowed people to kind of stay where they were and maybe receive IV fluids for some dehydration and whatnot. So that went off without a hitch. And everybody's kind of taking a breath after that in the Lucas Oil races. And then the only other thing I really have to report is we continue to do work with the Rural Health Transformation grants that we received. So a number of people in the room have submitted our first status reports, which were due July 15th, and believe they've all been received and completed and approved. So good work to everybody on that.
We really have to thank you for all the work you did with RAGBRAI. I mean, that was significant, and it was above and beyond. I don't think people understand how prepared you have to be.
A group effort, whole town and hospital, so.
Great. Thank you.
All that.
Any questions or comments? Oh,
Thank you.
Kim?
All right, so DIAL was in our building. They came in on July 13th, that Monday. So we had our survey inspection. They typically come every 5 years for each one of the rural health clinics, and we're kind of separate from the hospital site. So they came and spent about 3.5 days. We will have a couple things to work on, but nothing major. While we haven't officially heard the final word, they've got their 14 days to get back to us. I have not yet received the 2567, but then we'll work through that. Like I said, nothing major that we need to change or, act upon. As Dr. Devine had said, we have had some changes to our weekend coverage, and we are actively looking for 2 positions for kind of a PRN APP position to help cover those. But as she said, right now, everybody's kind of picking up and covering, and that's very appreciative. Everybody's pitching in. So very thankful for that. Other things that are just kind of going on at the clinic, we're hoping to have the moves, kind of that transition back into the first floor of the clinic by September 1st, with kind of the goal to be moving the evening and the weekend clinic space back into their, forever home, right? And then Dr. Kelly Anderson and Jennifer Brook will be making that move as well. So kind of the date that we're looking at is by September 1st. And then just to kind of give you guys a little something in case you're hearing about it out in the public, GLP-1 bridge program. through Medicare. That all kind of went into play on July 1 of this year. There's some pretty strict guidelines of who can get the GLP-1 strictly for weight loss through that bridge program. But so far, everything is going pretty good. Patients just may see a little bit of a lag time with the prior authorization process, just because there is a very, very high volume of those that are being used right now. So just to kind of keep you informed.
Yeah, well, I have heard about the GLP-1. I don't know if it is.
With the bridge, it's in
Big
play.
demand.
Say it again.
There's a big demand.
Yes, the bridge program is in play, and this is the one you've probably seen the commercials where it's only $50 for those that have Medicare, and it's in play until December 31 of 2027. So it's kind of a little bit of a pilot that they're doing to kind of see how it is. However, a lot of patients, even though they're on a GLP-1 for weight loss, if they have other reasons that they're receiving that GLP-1, it's got to go through traditional Medicare, and then they're not seeing that bridge program with the copay cost of only $50. So we're working through that.
Okay, thanks. I had to laugh when you said forever home. I'm not sure in the hospital it's ever a forever home. You've done a lot of.
Just their space in the
Any questions for Kim?
Thanks.
Jill, I think you're gonna give us some information.
Okay. So as far as the physician level recruitment, on August 10th, we do have a meeting with a family medicine with obstetrics physician who we've been recruiting now for some time. This meeting is intended to discuss the terms of the employment contract that we presented to this individual. So hopeful that conversation will start to wrap things up on that end. We also continue to recruit for an OBGYN. And I had mentioned at the last board meeting that we were expanding our anesthesia team due to the growth in OB, women's health, and surgical services. So since then, we have hired a CRNA who is currently in her student nurse anesthetist program and will complete that at USD by the end of the year. So we anticipate her coming on board after the first of the year. So that's good news. And then Dr. Devine mentioned that we are partnering with CAS on a shared dermatologist. So that recruitment marketing campaign has kicked off. So it's visible with providers in the provider community anyway. So we are kind of working collaboratively with CAS on that. So we meet with CAS and the recruiting firm and working together to make that one happen for us. And the intent would be to have dermatology services here 2 days a week and at CAS 2 days a week. Bryce Jagger, he's our IT director. He has resigned his position here at Myrtue, and so we will be posting to backfill his vacancy, and that posting we're anticipating to go out this week yet. In other personnel matters, I just wanted to let you know that we have also expanded our EAP services at Myrtue. So we offer employees an employee assistance program, so we're very fortunate to have a very robust mental health center at Myrtue. And so we also offer those services to our employees and their dependents, so they can receive up to 6 free visits to see a mental health therapist, and we're expanding that program by offering additional contracted service providers. So we have contracted with a local service provider in Harlan just recently, and so we'll be communicating that to all of our staff that they have that option. So that brings our total of EAP service providers to 8. So if staff prefer not to see someone locally and they want to be seen outside of the community, they have that opportunity to do that. We are also working in a couple of ways with Elmcrest. So Dr. Devine had mentioned the Welcome Home program. Just to expand on that a little bit, our own dietitian and our kitchen staff and our utilization review staff are working closely to collaborate on that to ensure that those meals go home to our discharged observation and inpatient patients. So we're looking forward to starting that in August. And then we're also working with Elmcrest to host a community health summit on August 4th. I do have a couple of postcards that I can share. So this went out to a number of local businesses late last week from Elmcrest. I'll pass, since there's three of you, I have plenty. But we are going to help facilitate that. It'll be right here in our oval room on August 4th, starting at 9 o'clock. The intent of that is to just really bring providers and community members together who want to better understand what healthcare services are available in our community, where gaps exist, and how we can facilitate stronger collaborative efforts to support our own community. So that's the intent of that summit. There's going to be a panel representing healthcare in our community, and that panel is going to include Senior Life Solutions, our own community health, home health, and hospice, our own mental health services, but also other similar services in the community, like through REM. REM is going to participate. Our specialty clinic services will be represented, Shelby County Ambulance Service, and then the Medicare and SHIP, State Health Insurance Assistance Program, will be represented as well.
That's great. Any questions for Jill? Okay. Jeff, do you have things other than the contract for the MRI room?
Couple things, just to follow up on a couple of items that was mentioned before is, Dr. Vine, I think, mentioned marketing has moved to the business office to free up space for OB upstairs. We have gone in and where the temporary ED was, Dr. Jonk was practicing out of there. We've taken two of those rooms and turning them into offices for Nicole and Leslie Bielenberg to move down there. Those rooms are ready to be moved. I think we're waiting on furniture now, so then we'll get them moved out of the space, so it frees up more for OB also. We've also been working on the second floor of RHC. We had some changes we wanted to do for Dr. Kelly Anderson. We have started those. The first thing being worked on, number of phases that have to occur. First is moving Kim out of her current office into a new office, so that office should be done in the next couple weeks. We have started demolition on an old, one of the offices, and that's going to be reception for the second floor. Be more visible and easier to see as you get off the elevator or come up through the stairs. So that's already been in process. Once Kim moves to the new office, her current space as well as two other rooms, we have to do some core drilling for plumbing. So that will occur, and we're hoping in a couple weeks that'll be done. Down on the first floor in outpatient specialty, tomorrow, we are starting to replace the brown carpet that is left, remaining there. We've got the walls painted, the agreeable gray. Walls are gonna be flooring's gonna be put in starting tomorrow. The waiting space that's kind of in those little alcoves, that's gonna move over to the existing where reception's gonna go, so we can do all that work during the day. And Friday or Monday, the reception desk will start to be installed in the new space there. So lots of things are going on. We currently have an envelope study going on in the emergency department as well as RHC, because some areas are condensating pretty heavily. And especially in these last few days, we've got just constant drips coming out of the ceiling. So we're trying to figure out the cause of that. So outside of that, what questions do you have about what's going on currently? And we'll get to MRI later.
Any questions?
Everything seems to be progressing forward on generally the schedule that.
Yeah, what we approved, substantial completion at the last board meeting for the project. We had a list of punch items that needed to be completed. That's kind of slowed a little bit. We had a meeting yesterday and one last week that kind of pounding on reiterating our urgency to get these rooms finished so that we can start using them again. As an example, in outpatient or in inpatient rooms, we vacated those rooms January 19th for work to be done on them. They were still working in them on Friday. So, some tile concerns on the smoothness on the transitions, so they're working through that. Got a couple walls that need to be repainted, put everything back the way that it was. So hopefully in the next few weeks, those will all be ready to go again also. So we wanted to get all that done before we start MRI, but hopefully tomorrow we can start MRI.
Thank you. Any questions? Kyle, do you mind just moving on, and then I told Jim we'd call him about 12:30.
Yeah.
That's okay.
No, you're good. So I don't have a lot. I do want to reiterate or reinforce what you guys said, and the team did fantastic when it came to RAGBRAI, and everything went smoothly. You don't want to say ahead of time that you think things are going to go well, because then they won't, but they did. They went great, and the team did a fantastic job. I did attend a IHA CEO roundtable last Friday. It was a very interesting meeting, just discussing kind of the future of healthcare and what that means, AI, how it's going to impact us. But one of the overarching themes was charges and reimbursements within healthcare, and how we're seeing DPP and 340B be reduced, but yet we're just having to struggle to find other buckets to replace that money as it's taken away from us, which is why, I mean, love him or hate him, but the big beautiful bill was helpful. We've gotten some money out of that. We continue to search for new revenue streams, and it's why it's important to keep focusing. And I think Myrtue historically and moving into the future has done a fantastic job of being progressive with all this contract work. I know it can be frustrating. We're all kind of frustrated with the pace at which things have moved, but it's still, he's got to step back and look at the positive nature of it, which is these things are happening. Our community is being served by a beautiful facility. We're finding the money out there to pay for these things so that we can keep advancing. One of the big conversation pieces was a recent study showed that Generation Z, there are multiple of them that have gone 10 to 15 years without ever designating a primary care provider, that they use a doc in the box on their phone more than they use hospitals. They'll only go to a hospital or to an actual doctor if they have an injury of some sort that requires it. So the discussion was, how do we as medical facilities approach that in the future? The problem always is that reimbursement trails advancement. So we can offer a service, but if we're not getting paid for it, how do we manage that? The discussion went down the line of, it's just, if you did provide something like that, it would have to be a cash out of pocket service, and you'd have to figure out how you did that. But anyway, that's just kind of an interesting meeting I went to. It was very productive, I thought. We're trying to be very forward moving. I would just say the guy that they hired to host the meeting, it was very interesting because he was in the room. He actually worked for Blockbuster Video, and he was in the room when Blockbuster Video was offered to buy Netflix for $42 million, and they turned it down because they said there will never come a time where people don't want to come and ask our employees their opinions on movies and buy their candy. The point of that is, we can't bemoan the future and talk about AI and how negative it is and the things that are happening, or telemedicine or whatever. It's here, so we can't be the cavemen who stand around kicking the wheel, cursing it. We've got to accept that it exists and figure out how we're going to move forward with it. So, but anyway, it was just an interesting meeting. That's all I got.
I think it's great to go to those. I think IHA is a pretty good organization.
I do too. I think I did a lot with KHA back in Kansas. I think they serve their purpose. They do. I do have a little bit of a grudge against them because Bryce is going, that's where he left us for,
I was going to say,
IHA. Yeah.
threw a little dirt on them.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Fair enough.
Yep.
We don't want to lose Bryce.
No.
Christine, you want to go ahead and talk about financials for a bit, and then we'll.
Yeah, well, we don't have financials. We've ended our fiscal year in June 30th, so we're trying to wrap everything up to get it to the auditors. They are going to be on site preparing our audit on 9/15. There's a lot of information we get to them in advance. They pretty well come in with it done and just do some testing and actual look at stuff. So that will happen by the end of next week, we have to have a lot of that information to them. If I got a couple minutes, I would just like to bring you up to date on our MAC office, which stands for Myrtue Access Center. We've kind of enlarged that area, and it's not really completely understood what that whole area does. But basically, as part of some of our CMS requirements and quality, closing the loop of when our providers, do referrals out to specialists or things, kind of bringing that full circle back to them. So they work on, referrals to outpatient and trying to get to out specialists. So they try and get that set up. They look at charts before we have surgical procedures to make sure there's nothing that a patient needs to see a cardiologist for or something like that. They also do a lot with prior authorizations because that's more of a issue now too. So they're doing prior authorizations. They go ahead and schedule them, and so that it's all about the coordination of care and closing that loop. So that's really what that office does. We've separated that out as its own department here internally within the hospital and have a director that's very in tune with what she's doing there. So I see improvements in that. It's not all piecemealed in different areas, so it's all together. So I think they're working very well together. So if you hear that MAC office discussion, it's Myrtue Access Center. So they're doing a great job.
Thank you. I think we'll probably table the financial stuff until
Yeah.
we have a quorum.
Yep.
We want to go ahead and see if we can get Jim.
Hi, is this Jim?
It is.
It's Ruth. We're here in the board meeting if you want to hear just a little bit about the MRI and then we'll take a vote.
Yep, that'll be fine.
Super, thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
You bet.
All right. For the MRI addition project here, as you're fully aware, the hospital received a grant for an in-house MRI machine. We brought a month or two ago to purchase the MRI. The grant was approximately $1.9 million to bring that in. And we have, as part of that, there's some pretty strict timelines and some requirements to it. We have to be providing services by September 30th of 2027. So we need a spot to locate the MRI, so we've been working with Altus and Murray to come up with the design on the space. To give you an idea of where, I'm sorry, we're using laser. Right here, this location, this is the current diagnostic imaging space. This is the ambulance, ED, the new clinic. So it's going to be tucked right into where the existing MRI truck parks. So it's a nice space, use existing walls. So, I mean, trying to look at what we can do to ensure everything's quick. As part of the MRI addition, we have come up with, we need an MRI scanning room. That's going to house the magnet, the actual scanning device. Equipment room for all of its power and network. A control room for our employees to sit and take the images and whatnot. Also comes with a patient toilet, changing room, staff sleep room for our on-call staff that we currently have. Obviously some storage. And then also in this is an HVAC upgrade. I'll explain that in a few minutes. But this is what it's going to look like. So the magnet device will sit here, the control room. This is the equipment room for the MRI, storage, a little bit of waiting possibly, a sleep room, and a changing room. This location right here is the central utility plant, which this box represents an existing air unit, and I'll explain that in a minute also. This is a CT room, and above the CT it has a 5-ton air unit that was installed to be a backup air conditioning for that space. It is turned into the primary cooling for that space.
Okay, so giving you a little more information about how we came to choose our MRI equipment vendor. We did evaluate 3 different vendors. We looked at Canon, GE, and Siemens. So I went on site visits for each of those vendors, visited Red Oak, Tumwa, Iowa, and then Medical Imaging Consultants in Omaha to look at those equipment pieces, talk to the staff that use them there, get some more information about those. Also, did a lot of phone calls, reviewed quotes, did reference calls to other facilities who have the vendors. And then we got to the point where we were able to narrow down between GE and Siemens. We preferred the equipment styles of both of those, their market share, just some different pieces that seemed like they would be easier for staff to use, which would be more efficient for the patient exams to be completed. So that is how we came down to those two vendors. And in the end, we felt strongly about choosing the Siemens piece of equipment. Like I said, we liked the style of equipment. We do a lot of service with Castling out of Omaha for some of our equipment, and they have a really good reputation for service. That was important to us, being a little more rural, that we have good service vendor and service team, so that way when we need help, we can get it quickly. So financial wise, as you can see, have laid out here the equipment costs for each piece when we were down to those two vendors. We were looking at their annual service contract cost, what they're gonna give us for, like a warranty period. So we did end up getting more months added to the Siemens warranty. And then our total cost of a 7-year cost projection for service, and then total cost with the equipment and the service. So quite a large number, obviously, but we knew that coming in that MRI was not going to be a small dollar piece of equipment. So thank gosh for the grant. That's helped us out tremendously to get that coverage. It does not cover the service, so that will be up to us to manage the service costs over those years. Questions about any of that right now or on this piece? Just an image, kind of put it in your mind what this would look like. The image on the left is a Siemens Magneton Altea MRI machine. That's what we ended up choosing as our vendor and platform. And then the image on the right is not necessarily what our room is going to look like exactly, but we're trying to manage it to bring in some ambient lighting, some nice wood, maybe wood look to some of our cabinetry in there, just a little bit more relaxing and appealing and helping patients get through that difficult exam a little bit easier. So we are going to work on some of the aesthetics in that room just to make it feel a little bit more comfortable. So
can you make sure it's the agreeable gray?
It is.
Yes.
If I'm going to get an MRI, I want everything to be agreeable.
Yes, exactly. So it'll go right in line with that then. Yes.
Good. Thank you.
Yes. As noted before, I believe Dr. Devine mentioned this, but we were also lucky to receive another one of the Rural Health Transformation grants for recruitment. So we are looking to then use that funding to recruit an MRI technologist. So our goal would be to hire someone who already has the experience in doing MRIs. And then to look at training a couple of our current staff to also learn how to do them. So we have backup, we've got at least a couple of techs there if needed. So we're going to be working on posting a position here real soon. See what we can get in for an MRI technologist with experience. Okay.
So we have gone through several stages of design. Construction documents will be finalized next week. We did have a early package for civil, structural, and the air unit, so that when we sign the amendment, they can start moving forward right away with that. But as you can see, sorry, it's pretty small. Maybe get a little bigger here. About $2.188, $2.2 million on the construction and the fees. All of this is, and if you notice, the mechanical and plumbing is the largest number. I'll explain that in a second. This is all the administrative, the bonds, the contingencies. We do have 2 contingencies that are here. Just because we don't have finalized CDs, there's a little bit of construction contingency and design contingency. The fee is a little high because we have pushed to get a large liquidated damage amount if they do not meet the dates of construction. And if we are not seeing patients by the end of September, we're at risk of losing the grant. So that's why the fee is quite a bit higher. So most of that, I guess is unfortunately the cost of doing business for construction. Let me get back here. So, as I had mentioned before, the mechanical was pretty high. It's an increase of approximately $250,000 to get, could be cut for a right-sized HVAC unit, an air unit. We currently have an air unit that is 9,000 CFM. 7,000 of it is all allocated and being used, and like I had mentioned, there's the CT, and it only supports diagnostic imaging. The CT room has a 5-ton unit that is not part of that is the sole source right now for that. The MRI needs a total of 4,500, so you can see the existing machine will not accommodate the MRI, so we're gonna have to add another one. I think it was gonna be about a 6,000 CFM unit, and what we had inquired about is, well, can we replace the existing one with a larger one, supply air to the entire floor, diagnostic imaging? It's going to be smaller in footprint, more powerful, more efficient, and also by removing the existing air unit, that gives us the ability to expand in the future in our utility plant. Because right now it is extremely tight for adding anything in there. So this would give us future growth, where we'd right-size the HVAC and free up the space. So that's why that number is a little higher. It accommodates that bigger unit. Not only that, along with the construction, we have to supply a number of pieces of equipment. Everything has to be MRI safe, which is kind of a new concept for us all, that a standard wheelchair won't work. We have to have one that's not magnetic. Can't have anything magnetic within a certain radius of the device. So it requires, IV carts. Also, we don't want people to inadvertently forget they have something in a pocket or forgot their earrings or something. That magnet will attract those, and it's very strong. So that's why we have a metal detector on there. The vital signs monitor, Carrie can explain that a little more, what we use. So, but then all the office equipment, the EVS equipment, the cleaning and everything has to be MRI safe.
The vital signs monitor that we're looking at, it would be giving us the availability to perform MRIs on patients under conscious sedation. Some patients are not able to handle an MRI, claustrophobia, and an oral sedation medication that they just do on their own doesn't always cut it. So we would like to be able to offer that also for patients that maybe are already, maybe under sedation for other reasons. So we would have to be looking at a vital signs monitor that is cleared to be in the MRI room. So when you put in MRI safe medical monitor, like that automatically just increases the price more than you would normally think. So we're working through some quotes for one of those.
So our request today would be to approve the construction contract of approximately right at $2.5 million and $200,000 for the owner-supplied equipment for a total of $2.7 million. We would be happy to entertain any questions you have.
I was just curious, on the actual Siemens MRI unit, you projected the cost out for 7 years. What do they expect the life of that MRI be?
So that varies a bit between vendors. Some of them were telling us, you could get 30 years out of this magnet. So we are seeing anywhere from 15 to 30 year kind of range, depending on how well you take care of it. Advances obviously in technology, but the magnet itself should last us for quite a long time. Okay. Maybe we'll have to do some upgrades or software upgrades, get some more packages on it so we can do different exams that aren't anything that we're doing right now or can imagine doing. So
And I thought that we were talking about a unit that would also have some extra capabilities for exam screenings, especially, and this has that in it.
Correct. So two of the ones that we've been focusing are adding breast MRI and prostate MRI.
Okay.
And these will have the coils and the software to do those.
Very good.
Yes.
Any other questions? I have one, I just want to kind of drill down on the numbers a little bit. So we have $1.9 million grant, and we also have, I think, a $120,000 recruitment for an MRI. But can any of that be used towards construction, or is that totally on us?
Construction is totally on us. The grant is specific for the MRI,
Okay,
the actual MRI device.
so if we have overages on those, we can't use them anymore, any other place? Okay. Just
There-
wanted to understand.
And let me guess, you don't get the grant until everything's up and running, so you have to upfront all of the money for everything.
No, as soon as we have any expenditures, like if they would require us to put 50% down or 20% down when we tell them that we're ready for them to start manufacturing it, we can request that reimbursement at that point in time, and the state's been really good about funding those within 30 days. But then if come September 30th, we're not up and running, we have to pay it back. There is the 1.5 million was put in the grant for the equipment. And as Carrie mentioned, they won't pay for the service agreement. The rest of that is for administrative fees of administering this, so we can get some coverage for some of our time for all of this. And then also for training of some staff. And there is also what they consider to be minor renovations. So we want to bring some, consistent flooring, consistent wall covering, consistent lighting into the existing DI area. We'll have to still work with the grant to make sure that that's covered. We did draw down the final $2 million on our $12 million loan that we'd gotten for the RHC that we didn't need for the RHC to help cover this. So timing worked out really well that we already had that in place, that we had that available to us. To go ahead with being able to make sure we have the funding for this.
That was going to be my next question, so thank you.
Yep.
And considering the fact that, we're hoping to start on this very soon, you're talking about having something that can see patients in 14 months.
Yep.
Basically from today.
The time frame as it's presented currently would put us being able to place the magnet in the building
About May 15th.
May 15th. Which would mean the only thing left to do would be seal up the building, get our training done. And so if we hit all the marks as scheduled, we should be fine.
And there are obviously some performance penalties if they do not get it done by that time. How confident is everyone that all of this is achievable on the timeline that you laid out?
We've had that conversation numerous times, and everybody today is confident those dates will be met. May 30th is the date of substantial completion. So,
It's a pretty substantial expense to the contractor if they do not get it done by then. So financially, they're motivated to do it.
We have an amendment written that's probably the largest penalty they've ever agreed to, so I think they're motivated.
Did they raise their bid just to accommodate that?
The overall fee, yes, was raised because they're taking off. How much? 67,000 to 100,000.
Yeah. Okay.
The original fee was 67,000. They raised it to 100,000 because they were taking on a greater risk.
Jim, do you
I
have
have one
any
other
other
question.
questions?
Where are
Sorry.
we going to locate the mobile unit while we're during the construction phase?
It shouldn't have to move, right?
well, it'll need to move to the east side of the ambulance garage.
Okay.
So where it currently parks backed up close to DI, that'll be part of the construction area. So the hookups by the original hookups by the east side of the ambulance garage are still active. The PET CT scan uses that. We've had both the MRI and the PET CT on site simultaneously. So that's where they're gonna have to hook up during construction. And then I don't know, since we are its home base, what will happen once we are open for business.
Okay. Is there any residual value that we'll receive out of that if we sell that unit then?
It's not our unit.
It's
Not ours.
We have a contract with them, so we'll just, in the end, we'll end up terminating that when it's time to, and then they'll go, they'll go on their way to their other site, so we won't have any equipment to sell.
Because that's our health partners in Southwest Iowa, correct?
It's actually from Shared Medical Services that we contract through. So Health Partners is where we used to do our nuclear medicine through.
Okay. We don't do that anymore.
We have that in-house now,
Yeah.
so yeah.
So I'll move the approval of the $2.7 million budget for the MRI addition and stuff
On your,
that goes with that. I'm kidding. 2.5 for the addition and the additional 200,000 for the
owner provided.
above and beyond stuff that goes along with this. And I think it's good that the HVAC issues are being resolved for the whole DI area down there.
Because that's gonna benefit more than
Right.
just
Yes.
A
Right.
big need
the MRI.
in this also. So I've moved.
Is there a motion? Wait a second.
Did Jim second or?
Jim second.
Okay.
Okay,
Second, yeah.
any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thanks.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
And I think the other two action items we'll just defer. Jim, we really appreciate it. Jim's on vacation and
Yep.
he came through for us. Thank you.
No problem. Take care, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Jim.
Enjoy the rest of your week.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so any other business to come before the meeting? We've got the next four meetings listed here, and then our next Board of Trustees meeting will be August 25th. I declare we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.